So what kind of legal fallout could there be from this tragedy? Joining me now is Lee Sweal, Fox News legal analyst, former prosecutor. We also have Bob Bianchi, criminal defense attorney and former head county prosecutor. Lise, let me start with you. I mean, nothing will bring these children back, obviously. So there's, there's no punishment that's really enough. But in the eyes of the law, if this driver was reckless, what kind of danger does he face, or punishment?
Well, he's charged, he's 24 years old, Johnthony Walker. He's charged with 5 counts of vehicular homicide. We'll start with that. And honestly, in researching this, Tennessee law is really all over the place. It's as low as 3 years per count to as high as 15 to 20 years per count. These could be consecutive or they could run concurrent, all right? That's vehicular homicide. These are the most serious charges. The other charges, reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon, the deadly weapon, of course, being the bus itself. For that, each count of that, 1 to 6 years, all right? So, but here's the problem. When you really look at the law, that sounds like a lot of meat, right? That sounds like a tough, up to 20 years per count on the vehicular homicide. When you really get down to it, this law is anemic because you get to probation, you get to mandatory minimums, and honestly, a good defense lawyer could get this down to about 48 hours in jail per count.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Bob, what does it mean to be reckless? I mean, we see bus drivers. I mean, a lot of times it makes me nervous. I'll see a bus driver going way too fast, changing lanes, doing all kinds of things, running lights that I feel like, but what are we really talking about here to raise it to the level? Is it about the accident? Is it about what they saw beforehand of how he was driving? How do you establish that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So mere happening of an accident is not necessarily proof of recklessness under the law. What recklessness means, it's a legal definition, is a substantial disregard for a known risk. So what are some of the cases that traditionally we used to start with? DUIs, under the influence, but we've now expanded that definition. It used to be drag racing. Now we're talking about speeding. So any violation of the rules of the road that that could potentially cause injury, which are virtually all of them. So speeding in this particular case could be considered a substantial and unjustifiable risk. And the accident itself proves that he lost control of his vehicle. And if they connect that he lost control of the vehicle over speed, that's recklessness.
And it was, well, they know for sure, the police know for sure that he was going well over the 30 miles an hour. And they also know that he was weaving within the lane. So we've got to figure out what that means, weaving within the lane. Those are the 2 factors that they know for now.
Let me ask you, too, as well, because, as a parent, I watch this and you think, if I were pulled over and I had my child in the back of the car and they weren't in a car seat or they weren't belted in, that's very
serious. You would be in trouble.
Right, Bob? Go ahead.
Yeah, and as a prosecutor, there were many instances in which we pose responsibility, rightfully so, on parents to ensure that their children are safe. Now, here's the legal issue that's at play. Because these children are being given over to the state because the state requires mandatory education, the state has a legal responsibility to act exactly with the same care that a parent would, because these are minors.
Does that mean seatbelts?
And listen, Congress for years has been debating this issue, and we're spending all this pork barrel money on issues that don't really affect the health and safety and welfare of our most precious gift, our children. They can't put seatbelts in buses. We've been arguing about this for years, and hopefully this case will be the clarion call.
Let me ask you
that make mandatory seatbelts.
Yeah,
too expensive.
What is the law here? Because the last time I went on a field trip with my son, we got on the school bus here in New York City, there were seatbelts. There were.
Yes.
All along the row in for each kid, and they said everybody buckle up before we go anywhere. Is that an anomaly?
Yes.
Are there seatbelt laws on buses anywhere in this country?
I believe it's 6 states. 6 states.
New York and New Jersey.
New York, New Jersey are one of the 2 of the first ones. New York, I believe, was the first state to make mandatory seatbelts.
That's right. And listen, these bus accidents are happening all the time. And it needs a legislative response. It is absolutely amoral to me that they will not correct this problem and fund it so that our precious youth are protected when they can't protect themselves and are vulnerable.
And Bob, you make a great point. It's a mandatory thing that we have to hand over our children to the schools. We have to, or we go to prison. We go to jail for not doing that. We're against the law if we don't do that. So when we hand our children over, shouldn't they get the protection then of the state with those mandatory seatbelts? And the answer is no, except for 6 states. It's too expensive to put the seatbelts in.
And yet we have the hypocrisy that if the same thing happened to a parent with their child and there was no accident, they'd be charged with reckless endangerment.
Amazing. All right, we got to go. Thanks to both of you. We appreciate it.